start with Magnificent Ambersons
Okay.
because that's one I watched the furthest amount of time ago, so I don't remember it as well as the others. And I
Okay.
also took the least amount of notes, so I feel like I want to get that one out,
Sure.
while it's still. If I wait 30 more minutes, it's not going to be as fresh.
I watched it this morning, so
It's like a great. Then coming at it from both ends. I feel like it's also like last episode was our big Citizen Kane talk, and this is like, man, what's Orson Welles gonna do next? He's gonna make another movie. What's this gonna be? And it's like, you know, did is not the revered classic that Citizen Kane is. I
yeah,
think for various reasons.
it's a good
Um,
movie, I think.
I think
Um
so too.
I can see why it is not held in the same, in the same league as Citizen Kane,
Yeah.
but this is a novel adaptation, and once again, it feels like it. But
Hmm.
it probably doesn't feel like it as much as it otherwise would have, because this movie was supposed to be a lot longer than
Hmm.
it ended up being. Uh, it's a relatively brisk for a movie like this, hour and a half. Where I think it was like closer to 2.5 or 3 hours
I don't
originally.
know if it was up to three. I think they cut about 45 minutes to an hour
Okay, yeah,
out of it. And when I say they, I mean the
RKO.
big wigs at RKO, sort of behind Orson Welles' back while he was out of the country shooting a different movie. Um, Gave it to an editor and we're like, hey, cut cut an hour out of this, and also we're going to shoot a completely new ending that is much more positive and upbeat than the ending that Orson Welles wanted for it.
Hmm.
And so Orson Welles kind of disowned this movie and was like, they ruined it. I still think it's quite good. And I do wonder because like the missing footage is just gone. Like no one has ever been able to find it. It was probably destroyed.
I mean, this editor, I think, did a relatively good job, I suppose, because unlike, I think a comparison with this maybe feels like an Eric von Stroheim movie, and unlike an
Hmm.
Eric von Stroheim movie, it doesn't feel like there's anything like conspicuously missing
Right.
from
It
this.
doesn't make a huge leap to like it's like, wow, there's clearly something missing there. Yeah, I mean I also think right there's this sort of thing where it's like, oh man, the lost version of this movie. What could it have been? I think even maybe those extra, 45 to 50 minutes like really made the movie and like really put it over the top. I think this was always a little bit kind of gonna suffer in relation to Citizen Kane, like in comparison to it.
Sophomore slump.
Yeah, I feel like just the kind of the the narrative of this movie doesn't feel quite as impactful as Citizen Kane
It's
does.
it's a little less important, I guess. It's
Mhm.
a little less like, um this movie has things on its mind, but I think that it is maybe a little less like politically like vigorous as Citizen Kane. And it's not trying to do all of the formal wackiness of Citizen Kane. Um,
Mhm.
though there were some slight overlaps that I noticed, such as especially in the beginning, this sort of like testimonial style storytelling, like talking
Hmm.
about the Ambersons, and as viewed through all of the townspeople who kind of hate them. And then it's also not very fond of rich people, which um,
Yeah.
which it's funny. It's like when I went through this arc. Like I was like, Magnificent Ambersons, don't know anything about it. Gonna watch this movie, and then I realized that like the Ambersons are like a super wealthy family, and I'm like, oh, that's very different from what's going on in Citizen Kane. That's a 180. To call them magnificent, and and then I realized that like everyone hates them, and it's the story is all about this kid who absolutely sucks, and like, and I was like, all right, maybe this is kind of an ironic title then.
Yeah. It does feel like it has a lot of kind of thematic crossover with Citizen Kane about like wealth and America and like what that does to people and sort of like the psychology of these like wealthy, powerful, like dynastic uh American families.
Hmm.
It does feel like the Ambersons are sort of a bit of a sort of composite of a lot of different, probably real life uh, families. But it's mostly about like their decline, their sort of like old ways that are sort of losing importance in like a more modern age. Like there's definitely this sort of like they have all their like old fashioned ways about them, and they're kind of being supplanted by these like newer money people that are
Hmm.
like coming up through like technology and building automobiles, and they're like, what, automobiles would never be a thing.
Thankfully, unlike other period movies, when this one goes like, "What, automobiles aren't going to be a thing," it doesn't rub me the wrong way like they like in every other movie that does that.
Well, because I think it isn't treated as much just like a kind of an offhand joke. It's like a pretty kind of integral to the plot of the movie is the fact that like
Yeah.
these people like can't see the future coming at them, kind of.
You talk about like these like declining dynastic American rich families, and it makes me think of Gone with the Wind, right? And how this is like the other side of that coin,
Mm,
maybe, of like this movie has an ambivalence toward progress, but it doesn't, just because it has some negative things to say about like the automobile and the world that it ushers in, doesn't mean that it has any kind of like love for the bad things about the way things used to be.
right, yeah. It doesn't feel yeah, I don't feel like this movie really ever felt that nostalgic. Like there's
Hmm.
scenes in it that are sort of like, ah, yeah, olden times when we had horses and buggies and like played in the snow.
Yeah.
But it definitely doesn't feel kind of wistful the way that something like Gone with the Wind does. It is much more kind of like, yeah, I it does feel a little, it doesn't feel that, I guess, like it's taking a hard stance, sort of like olden times were worse. And it also doesn't necessarily feel like it's that sort of like forward looking either, because it is sort of like, yeah, automobiles are coming, but it's like, look at all of the things that the automobile kind of destroyed by its existence, and also just like they're super dangerous. They kill people all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's like an Oppenheimer moment in this, which honestly I respect, because like I feel the same way about cars. It's like this
Cars are
Oppenheimer
scary.
this Oppenheimer moment of the Joseph Cotton character, like who is I don't know, not the sole inventor, but like the kind of inventor
Yeah.
of cars in this as a function in this story, and he's like, yeah, I don't know if I did the right thing or not, but it's kind of happening now, so I can't really do
Mm.
anything about it. Am I
What have I
becoming
done?
death? Maybe.
Yeah.
So our main character is George, who is this kind of like real, just like piece of shit. um,
Yeah. Very
uh,
incredibly spoiled, entitled, rich kid.
the movie begins with him as like one of those rich children who has like the curly locks and like the sailor hat, and he's just
Which makes you wonder, almost sort of like, was that as much of a like cartoon cliche, or is it simply the fact that like Simpsons writers love old movies and they're just like, put the kid from Ambersons in it?
it
Like
definitely, yeah.
I do kind of wonder, like I feel like this movie is probably already playing with some pre-existing iconography, right? But it does kind of feel like one of those things where it's like the reason why that image is we recognize is because of all the ways that people have copied this movie.
Sometimes I wonder how different our perception of culture, of classic culture, would be if we hadn't seen The Simpsons. It really like
Yeah,
puts a
it accounts
filter
for a
on
lot.
everything that we are watching.
Like, oh,
um,
the thing from The Simpsons.
yeah. But anyway,
That does happen a lot. I feel like watching old movies, I am just like, oh yeah, that's the thing from The Simpsons.
we're in the money.
They love 1933, those Simpsons writers.
But like, you talk about like the decline of these families, and like, it's this family tree that has a lot of people in this previous generation, right? and there's aunts and uncles and various people who are all in this kind of like upper crust society of the late 1800s, and um and then there's like an old woman at the beginning who's like basically predicting their downfall, and then the narrator Orson Welles goes like, the only things she got wrong is that they only had one son, right? And so it's like this huge tree that's like coming down into this one person, uh and it almost feels like it's like a withering of their family into
Mm.
like metaphorically as like yes, he's like this spoiled kid, but he is like he's a spoiled rich kid, but he is also the result of like the crumbling of all of this like rich
Mm.
infrastructure.
There's also right during that sort of early section, everyone is being terrorized by this little hellion child, and they're all like, "One day you're gonna get your comeuppance," and so that's sort of like planting a
Cue the
seed,
rest of the movie.
right? Planting a seed that you're like, "All right, I guess the rest of this movie is about we're gonna see how he gets his comeuppance." And then a bunch of stuff happens,
Right.
but it's like through all of that stuff, we start to get very, I at least me as an audience member start to get very engaged and sort of like I want to see what happens with this story with these people.
Yeah, I feel
And
like
we're seeing like members of George's family are dying, and it's sort of like we're seeing this sort of slow crumbling of the family and sort of
Mhm.
and his life. And then it reaches the point where he has sort of lost pretty much everyone in his life that he cares about or that cares about him. Like all of his relationships have been kind of burnt around him, and he's
Mhm.
sort of sitting in the dark alone, having like either lost or pushed away everyone that he knows.
Yeah.
And the Orson Welles narrator comes back in. It's like finally he's got his comeuppance, but there was no one around to even enjoy it anymore. Like everyone who was even like waiting to see this guy's downfall is dead. Like that's how little he matters at this point.
It's a bleak movie. It's weird that
And I'm like, oh, what a way to end a movie. And then there's like 20 minutes left. And I'm like, no, RKO.
You think
So
all that stuff afterward was RKO?
I think at least most of it was. I think had the movie ended there, I would have been like, God damn, what a movie this is. And I think the extra stuff after that, I'm like, it's all right.
Hmm. That's interesting. I
Um,
guess I never really noticed like
just
the
because
end.
that scene left me with such a feeling. I was like, oh, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
damn, I felt that.
um it's almost like Scarlett O'Hara's low moment, right? But instead of like
Mm,
going like by God, whatever she says,
right, yeah.
it's a such a classic
Yeah.
line. I don't remember what she says, but it's like going like, by God, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna build
Yeah.
myself back up.
I'm never gonna go hungry again, I think is what she says.
And as God is my, does she say, is that as God is my witness?
That's,
Uh,
something like that.
yeah.
Attack us in the comments.
Yeah, he just falls apart and everything. I mean, at least I think the next 20 minutes is just things continuing to like suck for him, which
Right. It's the last like minute that is like really feels out of place, I
hmm
think.
hmm but yeah, I mean, for a movie that's so negative, and like for a movie that is about like a main character so detestable, I
Mhm.
was surprised at how, I don't know, in a way it feels a little breezy, it feels like,
It's kind of fun. It's kind of a romp,
yeah.
yeah.
Like
Like it is pretty breezy and fun, I thought. Yeah.
there's fun stuff that happens in the movie, there's funny stuff that happens in the movie, and like I think even a movie where you're just taking glee in watching uh this detestable main character suffer and suffer, like that is a kind of movie that is like can be good, but like
Yeah.
this is not even that necessarily. Like he never the movie never really has much sympathy for him, but also it's not like, I think it would not feel as watchable if it were just piling on him the entire movie. Like
Right.
look at
Yeah.
how he suffers. Let's all enjoy his suffering. Not that he doesn't necessarily deserve it or whatever, but like, it's an interesting choice, I guess.
Mm. It's right. It's surprisingly fun for kind of how I guess, dark or sort of negative the sort of basic narrative of it is. Because also like a lot of it is just kind of like rich people doing rich people stuff and kind of either learning a lesson from it or more often not learning a lesson from it. Yeah, also just like as per Orson Welles, it's like it's very technically accomplished. Looks
Mm.
great. It's got some like really just like really incredible imagery in it. I think in particular there's like a shot of George looking out a window and it's like the shot is looking out the window, but we see his face in the reflection, like
Yeah.
sort of large, like sort of reflected over like people leaving the house. And it's like, dang, looks
You
great.
saw this on film, right?
I did, yeah. I got to see this in a theater on film, which is a nice rarity
I think
at
black
the
and white Academy ratio 35 prints look great because
yeah.
it's using all of the light from the projector rather than
Right.
for a flat movie where it's using only some of the light. And I find them to really shine in a theater when you're watching something that's for Academy ratio.
Yeah.
And black and white footage, I think, looks great on Blu-ray and it looks great on film as well.
Yeah. I saw it at the Roxy Hotel Theater in New York, which is like in the basement of a Art Deco hotel. So
Hmm.
it's like it felt like a very period appropriate place to see the movie. Also, the fact that it was on film, I may have gotten dressed up a little bit to try to get the full effect. You know, I really
Yeah,
wanted to see this as much in context as I possibly could.
this is like a the Gentle Minions for you.
Yeah, I was really going method with my viewing of this movie.
A method watcher. This movie had Orson Welles narrating it at like very sporadic points, but the end of the movie is like him narrating. And it's like this is the end. The movie was shot by this guy, and
Oh
sound
yeah,
and like
I
sets
love that.
decorated by this guy, and like he was reading out the credits, which maybe is in some way like a callback to his radio stuff. He originally
Hmm.
adapted this for the radio, but it
Yeah,
also felt like a
and played
really
George in the radio version.
mhm. But like it also just felt like a really I don't know, like a really respectful way of like tipping your hat to your
Yeah,
crew.
I do really like how much right he had his like Mercury right. He had like the Mercury Theater, which is like his stage production, and then he had the Mercury Theater on the air, which was the radio stuff. And then when he went to film, he was like, this is a Mercury production." Like he was still like the brand was still there, but it was like the same kind of like crew of actors that he brought with him.
Yeah.
That I think is just very cool that he was like, no, we're all a team. We're all in. This is like our thing.
There's a
Um,
great clip of Orson Welles that goes around sometimes of someone asking him in an interview, probably in the 70s or something like that,
mhm.
um, whether he ever feels like he cast the wrong actor for the job, and he was like, "Oh, I do it all the time," or like whether he like he would cast like a friend instead of an actor, or like the right actor for the job.
Mhm.
He's like, "Oh, I do that all the time." Like it was like he was like, being good to your friends is more important than being a great artist, quote unquote. Uh, which is like, that's
Damn.
awesome. That's so cool.
That is, I mean, like I have a lot of respect for that. It is funny how that is. I think he might be the only like big name director I've ever heard say something like that. I feel like most people, I have so often seen the opposite said and like emphatically being like, do not cast your friends and things like find the best possible actor you can.
Yeah.
Which I by and large do agree with. I think that is more in response to people who cast their friends who aren't actors and things.
Hmm.
As opposed to like if you're friends with a good actor, cast them in things. Like why wouldn't you?
Right.
Um but yeah, I really like that end credits thing. It does feel very kind of respectful towards his cast and crew. And I just also feel like the novelty of it is really cool too. The fact that it's like narrated credits and it's like each person gets kind of their own little kind of spotlight a little bit.
Yeah. And then yeah, it ends with like, and I'm your narrator. My name is Orson Welles. I also directed and wrote the picture.
Yeah. He never shows his own face though. It does kind of feel like he's like, I was all over that last one. I'm just gonna narrate this one.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. There was like a part in the movie where it was talking about how like oh, when you're in your early 20s, like you're a dum dum, you don't know what you don't know, and then like it's only when you're in your 40s when you realize what a dum dum you were in your early 20s. And it's like this is a movie being made by a guy that's like maybe like 26, 25 at this
Right,
point.
yeah. I definitely see a lot of I don't know if we talked about this in the Citizen Kane episode. I feel like watching Ambersons though, I was really struck by how much I think I see like Spielberg's kind of visual style in these like early Orson Welles things, like particularly like
Interesting.
the deep focus. I think has definitely been something that's been like pointed out by a lot of other people that like Spielberg likes deep focus.
Hmm.
But yeah, and just like the way the camera moves, the sort of the feeling where it's using the full frame and it's using as many tools as possible, and it just feels very, I don't know, robust. I can't think of a better really word to describe it than that. But
Yeah.
I could definitely see how. I mean, I think Orson Welles is one of the guys that Spielberg cites as like, along with John Ford and a bunch of other people, as like one of the guys that he like kind of learned from early on watching stuff.
Hmm. And Orson Welles learned from John Ford, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. John Ford was like everybody was just like, oh yeah, this guy's great.